G'day guys, Beer Healer here, and we need to have a chat about calibration. G'day guys, Beer Healer here, and welcome back to the Beer Healer Shed for another instructional video with Brewie. Today we're having a chat about calibration. Sounds pretty simple, right? Just like zeroing the scales in your kitchen. Well, as we say here in Australia, yeah nah. Brewie, as we know, is a more complex beast, so it takes a little bit more to make sure that she's running shipshape in terms of calibration. It's really important to do it on a regular basis to ensure that when your brewery's going through its brew day processes, it can do all the measures and weights and calculations to the absolute best of its ability and make sure that your beer turns out absolutely superb. Now, us guys here in Australia, we're pretty laid back, and I'm a real sheepy right kind of guy, but that's just not going to cut it here. To make sure the brewery's working absolutely spot on, it's all about precision measurements and following instructions. So today, we're going to go through the steps of calibration, so let's get on with it. So before I take you through how to actually calibrate the machine, let's take a look at a few of the things that you shouldn't do during the process. Don't put anything other than water in the machine to calibrate it. Don't put Brewie on an uneven surface. Don't take it for granted that your scales are actually accurate. My kitchen scales were way out in the past. And while we're on it, don't take it for granted that your jugs are actually accurate. This jug here has got new lines drawn on it because it's about 150 mils out of whack. And when I was using my old brewing system, this was causing me all kinds of grief. Don't lean on the machine while it's calibrating. And finally, don't play with the lid during the calibration process. So before I take you through the full process of how to calibrate the machine, I thought I'd just give you a few tips to help make sure that your calibration is successful. First up, level the machine. Make sure it's absolutely spot on. Before you pour in any water, make sure that both the lids are open and leave them there. Your scales are really important in this. I know I had a dodgy set of kitchen scales initially, so I had to chuck those out and get some brand new ones and then start all over again. Measuring out your water, you've got to be really careful. You've got to be absolutely spot on. Near enough is not good enough. There are many on-screen instructions to follow for Brewie, so make sure you follow them to the letter of the law. During your calibration, do not touch the machine. That's really important. When you go to measure your water, make sure that you zero your scales with your bucket actually on the scales each time. When it's asking for 7,000 mils of water, give it 7,000 mils of water, not more, not less. Make sure when you're pouring in your water that you're pouring in every single drop from the very bottom of the bucket. And lastly, when you go through and put in the second amount of water, make sure you repeat all of that and measure and be accurate and precise in what you're doing. So let's now go through the process of how to calibrate it from start to finish. Alrighty, so I got my water. Now let's measure out. This bucket's been zeroed on this scale. It's asking for 7 litres of water. 7 litres. So we'll pour it carefully into the tank here, making sure we don't spill it. And we make sure that every single drop in that bucket goes into the machine. So I put my bucket back on the scale and zero it off, and then measure out another 2 litres, taking it pretty easy. Spot on. So pour the next lot in, again being very careful to make sure that you don't touch the machine and that you pour every last drop into it. There you have it, successful calibration. All I've got to do now is drain the machine. There you go guys, that's how easy it is to calibrate the Brewie. But look, every now and then things don't go quite to plan and you'll get the calibration failed message on the screen. But don't lose heart, there's a few simple things you can do to make sure that it doesn't come up next time. First up, check the legs of the machine. They screw up and down and make sure that they're not loose and they're totally in place and you have a balanced machine. Next up, make sure you completely empty the buckets of all those drops of water. They all count, and as I said before, this is a very precise measurement, so every drop counts. Double check your scales and make sure they're not a dodgy set of kitchen scales like I had, because that really threw me out the first time I tried to calibrate. During the process, do not move those lids and make sure you don't bump the table. My table here is on casters so I can move it around the shed to put it away and all that sort of thing. And when I'm doing a calibration, I need to make sure that I lock those down so it doesn't move. And lastly, double check to make sure that your machine is absolutely level. That's totally critical. And if you do all those sorts of things, you won't get this nasty message on the screen, you'll get this one, and calibration will be successful. Well, there you go, guys. There's calibration done and dusted. You know, it's actually pretty easy when you follow the steps and make sure that you're precise with your measurements. That's all I got for you today. I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you like what I'm doing here, please leave a comment. But until we talk again in the Beer Healer Shed, cheers to great beers.